everyone. Welcome to I'm Not a Fan Unless I Have a Podcast. I'm John Hanford, and thank you so much for watching this on YouTube, subscribing, and commenting and liking and doing all that. On YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I appreciate it. Also, I wanted to say, about damn time we got something new. The guys just put out a 26-second clip of a song that's apparently titled Honey. And it's just a sweet, acoustic, microtonal, kind of boogie jam. I don't know. It's sort of sounded like microtonal fishing for fishies. And I kind of like that. Somebody posted a video of Stu playing that riff, as sort of teasing that riff, I guess, a couple years ago when they were playing Sleep Drifter live. So that's pretty cool. Seems like there's a possibility that there's some, that maybe this is one of the microtonal songs that didn't make it onto Volume 1 of Flying Microtonal Banana. I think Stu said something a while back about cutting a couple songs off of Flying Microtonal Banana, and I thought that those were only All Is Known and Greenhouse Heat Death, but because they were later released on Gumboot Soup. But who knows? Maybe there's more. So it's I'm excited for whenever that album finally gets released, because we need something new to talk about on this podcast. The podcast is still interesting, but it would be cool to it's. I haven't yet had the chance to discuss brand new music on this podcast yet, and I think that'll be a cool evolution. I don't know why not all of my hair is getting picked up in front of the virtual background, but anyway, it's kind of messing with me. Anyway, we'll get right into today's episode. My guest today is Brandon from Salt Lake City, young guy, 22, and he talks about what it's like to be a Gizzhead in, an area that, bluntly, it's kind of dominated by Mormons, and so that sort of poses a challenge to the live music scene, and basically any sort of entertainment where alcohol is served. There's just something about that environment that's sort of fascinating, and Brandon gets to tell us all about it. In addition to his vinyl collecting and all that. So anyway, before I spoil the entire conversation, here's Brandon. Hey, Brandon, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited.
Yeah, so you're the only person thus far that sent me an email to be on. So how did you hear about the podcast?
I think it was on I first saw it on the Facebook group, and I was like, oh, I should, that'd be cool to be on it. And then I started listening to your podcast, and like you said, the email, and so I just wrote it down and emailed you that way.
Nice.
So
yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's it's good because I sort of put the email out there just as sort of a way to gauge who's listening to this thing all the way through,
yeah.
and so it's cool. At least one person has. No, the audience is actually I've gotten a good amount of listenership thus far, so it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah. So where are you calling in from?
I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, right now.
Oh, so, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So, Giz has definitely played Salt Lake City before, right?
Yeah, they've played a few times. I only saw them on their last tour, because every other time it's been a 21 plus venue.
Oh, okay.
Well, most of the venues in Salt Lake are like that. They have to be 21. It kind of sucks, but once you're 21, you're like, who cares?
Yeah. So you just turned 21 last year?
Yeah, I'm 22 now, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you saw them on the so that's your one time seeing them, or have you seen them
No, that's my only time. I was supposed to
Cool.
see him in Berkeley, but we all know what happened. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep. I've still got my tickets. I'm not requesting a refund on it just because like
no,
I need that to look forward to. I need that and
yeah,
Red Rocks.
exactly.
um,
Yeah, I wanted to go to Red Rocks, but I was supposed to move to Alaska for the summer, which
oh
isn't
wow.
happening either. So like, the Berkeley show was like a week before I left, so I'm like, I have to go, you know. But I mean, I'm gonna try and go to the Red Rocks show. I've always wanted to go to Red Rocks, and I mean, it's only like 8 hours away, I think,
Yeah,
from me.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's not far.
yeah,
I've made the drive before from going from Salt Lake to Denver, and it's
yeah,
I mean it sucks having to go through Wyoming because it's just
yeah,
nothing. It's just
yeah,
pure abyss. But like until you get to Cheyenne, but
yeah.
um, yeah, it's it's an interesting drive, but
It
it's like also
is.
not that bad.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of Utah's like that too. Like the further south you go, it's nothing. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty out there though. It's
Mhm.
like I live out in the desert as well, like in Southern California. So
Yeah,
if I'm driving from Joshua Tree to Las Vegas or something, it's similar. There's like a little more scenery than there is in Wyoming. Like at least
yeah,
Utah, you got mountains.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Got
yeah,
something to look at.
I was like losing my shit driving through Wyoming though. I was just like, there is nobody on the road here. Like, how does this state even have two electoral votes? Uh, but
I think
um,
that, yeah, it's a good point.
but yeah. So that show that you saw last year, so that was obviously the Rat's Nest tour. Um, what what were some of the highlights of that show for you?
Well, I was pretty excited because it was like 3 or 4 days after Rat's Nest came out, and I listened to some of it, and I was like, wow, like this is gonna be a crazy show. I have to go. And I remember they opened up with Venusian 2 or
Yeah.
Venusian, whatever, and I was like right in the pit, and I was like, man, this is gonna be crazy. And then I remember them like I can't remember. I think towards the end they played Oregon Farmer and another song. I can't remember from Infest Fest, and then they ended with the river, and I was like, wow, it was just a crazy shift from like that to the river, and I mean, blown away. And then like in between all the Rat's Nests, they played like a ton of Fishing for Fishies, which I really like.
Oh, nice.
So I feel like they played a good mix of stuff, but I was like, I mean, I would love to hear older stuff, but I was happy. I was happy just to see him.
Yeah, I really want to see them play "Float Along, Fill Your Lungs."
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite albums.
Yeah, I mean
So,
it. But the title track off of it is one of their closers. They'll use
yeah.
that to close out shows.
Hmm.
I've not been lucky enough to see that or Head on Pill, and those are like my two. Um, I mean, those songs are just so amazing. I mean, it's
Yeah.
um, like especially playing like "Float Along, Fill Your Lungs" right after something off Rat's Nest would
Oh
be
yeah.
just super sick. It's like, all right, now we're in the cool down part of the mosh
Mhm.
workout. Uh, just
Yeah. I was drenched after that show, but it was 100% worth it.
oh yeah, I mean like it's that's the one thing about Giz shows. Like you need to have water. Like
Oh yeah.
um, I mean like I wish that they would let people bring in outside water.
Yeah.
Because you need it. Like the first ever show I went to, I was like in the middle of the pit, or not in the middle of it. I was in the front row, like against the railing. But people were like pulling at me to try and get my spot. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it was like I was fighting these people off, and I'm just totally soaked in sweat. I'm also like I'd like become friendly with a few other people there, and including one girl who was like 16. And I was just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna be here to make sure that nobody does anything creepy. Um, and uh, and then like she had to like dip out maybe halfway through the show because like she was just totally dehydrated and like had to puke, I think. So um,
Yeah, I had a few beers like before the pit started, and I was like, I'm not getting back out. So I'm in this for the long haul, and I was fine. But
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I made it through, uh,
yeah,
even though like I hadn't really hydrated. Like I didn't drink that much water before because I figured I don't want to have to go to the bathroom at all during this show,
exactly. Yeah,
and because like I had that front row spot, um, and it's just like I don't want to miss anything. Uh,
yeah.
so like I luckily, like I caught one of the waters that that Joey or Stu tossed after the show.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, I actually don't know if if they still do that, but like back when I first saw them, 2018, like after the show ended, uh, they would just toss water into the audience just to because like they knew some people
Yeah.
were dehydrated. So
I don't know if they did that, but I hope they still do it. That's way cool.
yeah, I mean, at least if it's at an indoor venue,
Yeah.
they definitely should. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I don't recall them doing that at the Greek Theater in LA last year when I saw them,
Mm,
because it's outside and
yeah.
there was it was actually kind of cool that day. Like there was a nice breeze. Um, come to think of it, there was no standing room either, so it was
Okay.
like yeah, everybody was in seats, so there was no moshing or anything.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, I mean people stood up throughout the show,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was like people couldn't really mosh that well, and uh,
Yeah.
like it's like obviously anytime you do decide to mosh, uh, you're going into it knowing that there's an injury risk for sure. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that people don't mosh when there are seats because of like I'd say an equal injury risk. Like you
Yeah.
bump your knee against a seat and bruise yourself or something. Like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah. So how did you first get into Giz?
Um, that's a good question. I remember back in high school, this was like I graduated in 2016. Um, it's probably either my junior or senior year. Um, one of my friends had like told me about this band and King Gizzard and Lizard, and I thought that was a crazy cool name. And I think I like looked them up on Spotify and I listened to like their top songs like "Work This Time" and maybe a few off. Um, and then like 12 Bar Bruise. I remember I would always like go to the band's first album and start from there.
Yeah.
And I remember like really liking like McCraker and um, oh, I Called Mom.
Yeah.
And I just thought those songs were really cool. Um,
They're just like a lot of fun, you know.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Like I would love another album like that. I mean, I'll take any new King Giz album, but I love that album. Um,
yeah, I wouldn't mind a throwback to that at all. Like
yeah.
and like obviously they would probably throw some other some other sounds in there to make it you know make it sound different from 12 bar, but it would be
Yeah.
interesting if they did another sort of garagey type
Hmm.
album.
That would be way cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Um
like um after that I I've noticed this kind of a trend on this, like a lot of deadheads like King Gizzard, and I'm a deadhead too. And I think I like listened to them a lot more at the time, the Dead,
mhm.
and like that was my band, and I listened to stuff like that. Like I went and saw the Dead a few times, and then like when I started releasing out the five albums, I like started paying attention more, and then like I don't know, like then Infest the Rastiness came out, and I had been into some heavier stuff, and I'm like, that's that's it, like that's what I want to hear. It's like
So,
Infest the Rastiness like exploded my metal taste, but like I always come back to King Gizzard. I feel like
yeah.
so.
Well, so that's interesting that you happen to be getting into heavier stuff like around the time that Rat's Nest came out anyway.
I know I
And
was like, wow,
yeah, so it's interesting because like you don't hear that a lot from Deadheads, I don't think. Like
no, no, you
there aren't a
don't.
ton of Deadheads that are like into like thrash or or
No.
like metal. So how did your taste for heavier stuff come about?
Um, I think I started listening to like more punk, like Minutemen and Black Flag.
Love
Uh,
Minutemen.
oh yeah. Because my dad was into like in high school, like he listened to like the Dead Kennedys and the Sex Pistols. And so like I found all his music, and when I get into music, I go like crazy like on Spotify. I like find every band that like fits in that genre. And I got like way into the 80s DC punk scene with like Fugazi, Minor
Hmm.
Threat. And then from there I think I just like started listening to metal. Like I mean like with Metallica, I think was a huge intro. I mean I've listened to Black Sabbath for a long time.
Yeah.
Um and then like I found like Electric Wizard and Sleep, like the doom metal stuff. So like I don't know, I just like grew to really like the heavy stuff. But I still like I like a lot of music.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think just finding different music kind of, I think it just got progressively heavier. So I think that's
Yeah.
it.
I mean, it's interesting. Like I remember because like I briefly went through like a screamo phase, like when I was a freshman in high school, I think.
Yeah.
Like my friend just found a burned copy of Slipknot's first album, Iowa, and so we would just listen to that and just think we were like hardcore and satanic and really cool.
Yeah.
It was some of the dumbest shit, but
Yeah, I know what you're
but like
saying.
that album was like I've gone back and listened to it and like it's good. Like that it fucking bangs. It's good.
Yeah.
But it's but yeah, I mean it's just interesting. Like because I remember back then I was thinking like, well, considering I'm like my music taste it had progressed steadily from like folk music from when I was like a toddler
Hmm.
to the Beatles and oldies, which I was like really into all throughout
Hmm.
elementary school, and then
Yeah.
progressed to Nirvana, then
Yep.
and then all of
Yep.
a sudden I'm listening to like screamo metal. I just figured the natural progression of music in general would be okay. What can go even harder than this?
Yeah.
And and it's so weird because like that's not how music progresses at all. Like it's
No.
um but but it's interesting to me just because like I don't really know that much about Salt Lake City other than like there are a lot of Mormons there and like the mountains are beautiful.
Yeah.
So like does that have a big impact on the music scene out there or with people's taste in music?
I would say so, yes, especially with the music scene. I mean, there are a lot of Mormons here,
Hmm.
and there's also not a lot of members. Like I'm not.
Hmm.
Um, and I think like the presence of it, like in the city, kind of affects it because like growing up here, like everything closes early except for like McDonald's. So like, um, I think that affects the music scene. There's like less, I think, opportunities to open up like a new venue. There's not like compared to like any other larger city, we have not very many venues. Like, I mean, we have like two or three big ones and maybe like 10 small ones. And I'd say 80% of them are 21 plus. And I
Yeah.
think a big thing of that is like the alcohol thing in Utah. So like if there's a bar there, then nope, no one under
Yeah,
21. I mean,
that's so wild. Like, like in Texas, I used to go to a music camp in Austin, and one of the cool things about Texas is that, like, as long as the like basically bars admit kids, like it's up to the bar if they want to be all ages or not.
yeah.
Um, and like it was interesting going there because like I think it's educational honestly for kids to go to bars and
Hmm.
not drink because it's like uh you sort of get a feel for what it is. Generally it's a cool place to hang out, and it's like if alcohol is like either not an option or just totally optional, it just creates like a really low pressure environment, I feel. So I don't know, that's just my soapbox
Oh
thing.
yeah,
um
that's a really good view on it, honestly.
yeah.
A lot of people refer to like it's called like the Mormon bubble, and like you kind of live in this world where that stuff doesn't really exist unless you go seek it. Like if you break the bubble type of thing.
Yeah.
And I guess like that's what I did. A lot of my friends the same way. Like we didn't want to live like that, and things are I think cooler outside the bubble per
Yeah, for
se. But
sure.
I don't know. That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah. Um, are there any local bands? Is there a music scene in Salt Lake or around?
There's a town or a city about 45 minutes south of Salt Lake called Provo.
Hmm.
Um, that I know they have a big music scene. A lot of it's like the indie dream pop type stuff that I don't really like, especially. Like
Hmm.
it's fine. I just like don't seek it out. I've been to a few like punk shows. That was a while ago, but like it's not huge, I would say, the music scene.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do it, but like it's hard to find for me personally. But it's
Hmm.
definitely out there. So
Yeah. It's interesting, like how in largely conservative areas there are generally pockets of like more open minded and people
yeah.
and artists and stuff. Um, yeah, I mean like Phoenix is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Arizona, it's but they've still got like a pretty good art scene in addition to like all the extremely conservative people. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean it can work. But it is frustrating like when you do have sort of like the architecture of the society in Utah
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
sort of frowns upon it. But I don't know,
Yeah.
hopefully that stuff changes.
Yeah.
um
I hope so. I would love to see like Salt Lake become like a smaller Portland or Seattle type place. You
yeah,
know?
I mean it would. I mean, don't get me wrong, Portland and Seattle, like I've spent a lot of time in both those places, and it can be a little overbearing sometimes. But uh, in terms of the art scene and the music scene,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Exactly.
And I think geographically, Utah is just way better. Um, I mean,
Yeah. Those
it's just
giant
gorgeous.
mountains. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I definitely because like I'm not trying to say like, Salt Lake doesn't have an art scene or a music scene. It does. It's just like not super big, I'd say, from what I've seen. But
yeah.
like, cause
I've heard the comedy scene is pretty good there, or at
yeah,
least
there's a lot of comedy here. Yeah,
yeah.
there's a few places that yeah,
Like I've heard from since like when there isn't a pandemic going on, I do stand up, and like I've
yeah,
heard from a lot of other comics that Salt Lake is like one of their favorite places to go, just because like the
yeah,
crowds are generally pretty receptive, probably
yeah.
because there not a lot of Mormons in the crowd.
Yeah,
But
I think a lot of the comedy clubs are bars. So I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, or at least they serve
definitely.
soft drinks. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
but back to Giz.
Yeah.
What's uh So of those five albums, like you mentioned in 2017, that's sort of when you started to pay a little more attention to
Hmm.
them. What was like? What would you say hooked you? Either any one album or any part of one of the albums. Like, what made you really get into that?
So like when those were coming out, I wasn't like as big of a fan as I am now.
Hmm.
But I had a friend say like, "Have you seen like the new King Gizzard album?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "It's called Murder of the Universe." And he like showed me the artwork, and I was like, "Holy shit, that is insane!" And like I listened to it, and I listened to it a lot stoned in I guess it was after high school.
Yeah.
And I just thought like the storytelling was really cool, the music was really cool. I really liked it. And then Polygondwanaland came out, and I thought that was really cool, especially how they like released it for free.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing like all the different variants come out of that because I collect vinyl. I'm a decent sized collection, and I always like seeing that kind of stuff. So definitely those two. And then I remember hearing a few songs off uh,
What was it?
Microtonal Banana, Flying
Yeah, yeah.
Microtonal Banana. Like Doom City and Nuclear Fusion, and I was like, those are really, really good songs. And then at that point, I was like really following what they're coming out with, and like they came out with Gumboot Soup, and I thought I didn't know for a long time like that wasn't like the album is kind of like B-sides, I think is what I've gathered about that
Yeah,
album.
it's basically just songs that didn't fit the overall theme or story of the other albums.
Yeah,
So it's basically like, just scraps
yeah,
from other albums. And yeah, I mean, Gumboot. I've been talking a lot about Gumboot, and like I think it's one of like it. I don't know if it's my favorite album for 2017, but it's I mean it's up there of my all time favorites.
yeah. It has some amazing songs on there, and like I like to listen to and like try and like think of like, oh, what album could this song maybe fit on, or like stuff like that, like Great Chain of Being, or uh
Yeah, I mean like
Greenhouse Heat Death could like be on either like Polygondwanaland or Murder of the Universe. It's kind of heavier. I don't know. That's
I
just
mean
my take on it.
yeah, well, because like Greenhouse Heat Death was a microtonal song.
Oh, was it?
So yeah,
I guess
so I
that,
mean,
yeah, that fits
it
too.
could have been on Banana, but at the same time, like they also had some microtonal songs on sketches. Um,
Yeah.
so like, I mean, obviously, Greenhouse Heat Death would not fit sketches at all, but
No.
um,
Yeah.
although that would be hilarious if they just threw it in. Um,
It would.
but but like but yeah, so like I would imagine that would be like that, and All Is Known, a couple microtonal songs, like that would probably be off Banana.
Yeah.
But Superposition, I think, is one of the most underrated songs off of that
Yeah.
album.
That song. I've been
um
into that song lately. That one's really good.
yeah, that one took me a little while to get into, but one of my best friends, she was going through like how Spotify has like the top songs after
Mhm.
every year that you've
Yeah.
played. Like she had apparently been listening to that a ton because it just like really resonated with her, whereas I hadn't really given it that much thought. So once she told me like, "Hey, Superposition is my favorite song off Gumboot," I was like, "Okay, let me give this another listen." And then just the lyrics through the whole thing, and just the musicianship is just stellar.
Yeah.
It's super unique. But
I would say that about every song of King Gizzard. I think they're
yeah,
super talented. Like that. Like they blow me away every time I listen. Like it's just like crazy. So
yeah. I mean, even on 12 Bar, which are like simpler songs,
mhm,
there's some really good lyrics on it. I mean, like I'm thinking just the whole theme of High Hopes Low,
mhm.
like that's just like, to me that's sort of like a protest song in a way. I'm just like, hey,
Yeah,
look, we're all in on this band and we're doing this. Like it's sort of like mocking people, telling them to keep their hopes low. And um like I think that was so creative of them to do. And yeah, just the lyrics, the concept of that song, I just think it's really uh
yeah,
some kind of genius. But
yeah. Um, for a long time, one of my old jobs, I'd have to like get up really early to get there about like 6 in the morning, and I used to always throw on "I'm Sleeping In" because I always wish I could just sleep in because I'd work like 4 days in a row, like night to morning, night to morning. So like I didn't really get like that much of a break, and I was like, I just want to sleep in. It's the weekend, so like that song has a really big, I guess, impact on me because I just
yeah,
means a
and
lot.
it's so weird. Like that song, I feel like it gets lost in the shuffle a lot. Um,
It does.
that and The Last Oasis, like you don't
Mm-hmm.
hear much of it, um, which is strange to me because The Last Oasis was the first single that they released off of Gumboot.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and like I'd just gotten into Giz right before, uh, like right between Polly and Gumboot.
Okay.
And so, when Gumboot came out and that was the first song they released, I was like, I don't know if I'm really feeling that. But
Yeah.
um, but then the rest of the album was out, and it took me a little while to warm up to it, but they're definitely, I mean, obviously Muddy Water was just, that one really stuck out to me. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then The Wheel as well. Like, there are just some really
Yeah.
fantastic songs. I mean, obviously we're just repeating ourselves at this point.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but so you mentioned you're a vinyl collector. Do
Mhm.
you have all the Giz albums, or are you still working
I
on that?
do. I got the last one I got was Paper Mache Dream Balloon.
Oh, nice.
Not because I don't like it, it's just like the last one I found.
Yeah.
Like if I saw one I didn't have, I'd be like, well, I'm getting it 'cause it's right here. And I was planning on getting that at the Berkeley show, or not at, I mean, at Amoeba in Berkeley. I was
Yeah.
gonna look for it there. But then when they postponed that, I went to a record store and they had it, and I'm like, well, now I have all of them. And then I'm waiting on Chunky Shrapnel. I ordered it from Flightless. So
Oh, nice. Yeah, I heard they're going to
uh,
be shipping like in July. So
yeah,
it's
so I have to wait. But
yep.
yeah, so technically I have all of them. I'm just waiting on one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did you get the 8-bit Polygondwanaland?
No, I've been seeing people with that, and I'm like, dang, I really want that. I want to try and get my hands on it, but it's really cool.
Yeah, so I ordered it last week when they went back on sale, and
Yeah,
and so like it just got here a couple days ago, and uh yeah, I put it on, and it's fucking awesome. Like, which is weird because there was another 8-bit version of Polygondwanaland that was on
okay.
YouTube that I
Yeah,
I thought I liked better than the 8-bit Escapades version,
okay.
which is what's on vinyl.
Yeah,
Um, and I think I still do like it better, but once I actually put on this vinyl, and I saw what they did with the whole album and everything, especially um, uh, like the Inner Cell Horology Suite, that was yeah, it was just really cool, and it totally changed my mind on it. So it was, yeah, I'm pleased with that purchase.
yeah, that's awesome. I
And
have
it,
just like the ATO pressing of it.
mhm.
I want to buy one that like someone made with like a different cover sometime. I think that would be cool to have like a different edition of it.
Yeah, I bought the Fuzz Club version, which has
Okay.
the woolly mammoth on it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that one, it's really good. Like, I bought it because I had heard from somebody in the group that that was the best sound quality.
Okay.
So that's why I went with that. But that's the only version of Poly that I own. But yeah, it sounds great. And yeah, I also really like the album, like the artwork.
Yeah.
It just has a bunch of prehistoric animals on it, and
Yeah, I've seen the picture of the front cover. That one's way cool. I like to find that one too.
yeah,
Um, I'm not really buying right now just because money
it's a good idea
tight.
to save.
Yeah. So, because like for years I've been just like going out and buying records, and I'm like, I have a stack that I haven't listened to, and I'm like, I can't go buy any. It's like I've been restraining myself, but then like I feel bad because I'm not supporting my stores, but I'm like, I've given them enough of my money that they're fine. But
Yeah. You own all of their records. It's
yeah, and I
um,
have like almost 30 dead records. I have way too much.
yeah. I mean, usually like when I go record shopping, I like to find I like to see what's in the used section,
Hmm.
because you can usually find some pretty good buys. Um,
Exactly.
and I don't know, it's like I sort of enjoy that worn look of albums.
Yeah.
Um, it's like it's an original pressing from like the 70s or 80s of whatever it is I'm looking for, sometimes 60s. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's just like, I don't know, it's just like an aesthetic, I think. It's probably like a nostalgic thing, really, because like my parents have a gigantic record collection
Hmm.
that I grew up with, so it was, yeah, kind of like that. But anyway, I think we're about to wrap this up. But
Cool.
before we go, I just wanted to sort of get your thoughts. Like, what else do you want to see from Giz? Like, we obviously talked about like, what about like sequel to 12 Bar or something. But
Yeah, I mean, I'd be cool with that, or like another microtonal type thing. Um, I mean, it'd be really cool to see them do maybe like a different genre of music type, like a different approach.
mhm.
I mean, like a punk type one would be cool. I know we just got metal, but like I like punk. Um,
Yeah,
they did their AMA on Reddit, and I asked if there was any like B-sides to Rat's Nest, and Stu replied saying there was one, but it wasn't very good. And I'm like, oh, I would love to hear it regardless. Like you
yeah,
should
just
release it. So I mean, I'll take anything.
yeah. I
But
mean,
I mean,
yeah, because like it's interesting to see all that they, can do. Like even if they
mhm,
think it sucks, it's like somebody might not.
yeah,
Like you just got to put that shit out there, even if it is garbage. It's like, yeah, not everything's perfect.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I'll take anything at this point. I mean, I'd love for them to like go back and revisit something maybe, but something new like also is really exciting to
Yeah,
be waiting for.
yeah,
So,
maybe even like another paper mache. Just do
oh
another
yeah,
acoustic
that would
album
be
or
really
something.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, but anyway, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So yeah, and stay safe, and
yeah,
hopefully we're able to reconnect in Berkeley.
yeah, that would be way cool.
Yeah. All right,
All
take it
right,
easy, man.
yeah.